Hello everyone, I am Asta Audzijonyte, joining you from Nature Research Center in Lithuania. I would have loved to be in Baltimore at the moment, physically at the conference. Unfortunately, due to COVID, that was still not possible, so I'm joining you at least virtually. And I'm very excited about this session and about the meeting, and hoping that despite only a virtual attendance, there would still be a possibility to establish new collaborations and share lots of exciting ideas about angler engagement in fisheries research. And this talk is mostly about angler engagement and about involvement, invitation to participate in a fish size project. So what is it? And over the last decade or so, a lot of very exciting new initiatives have been started, initiated by angler apps and devices and companies. So Angler Atlas is, of course, a wonderful example and their various research projects. Also FishBrain in their scientific partnerships. And we at Nature Research Center, we are collaborating with the company DEEPA, who are making these sonar devices as fish finding devices. So this allows a lot of high quality data on an unprecedented scale. We have never had access to so much data. And a lot of fisheries that are generally considered data poor can actually become very data rich. Surprisingly, in fishery stock assessments, most coastal or inland fisheries are still considered data poor, even though people interact with these fish stocks, they see them, they photograph them, they catch them almost every day on a massive scale. So the possibility to actually collect this data is extremely exciting. Science is rapidly learning how can we use this data, how to make it comparable with the earlier research, and there are a lot of interesting examples already of how anglers have helped to study catch and release survival rates. We can look at catch per unit effort, catch per fishing trip, how that changes, and that's an indication of stock status. Reporting invasive species or diseases is, of course, a natural involvement of anglers who are at the various lakes and rivers every day. Changes in angler behavior and effort, which allows to design better fishing rules that would ensure sustainable fishing stocks and good fishing for everyone. But there is another extremely important and powerful data and analysis that we can do, and that is fish sizes through space and time, across various places, and through time also. What are the sizes of fishes that anglers catch? Because we know, and it can't be emphasized strongly enough, that size is actually very important to fish. On the one hand, size is affected by a lot of factors. It's affected by fishing, it's affected by temperature, food availability, predation, physiology, evolution as well. So the size of species in the population is a result of many interacting things. Because fish, unlike mammals, for example, they grow through their entire life, and adult fish can actually vary in size massively. So, for example, if cod can mature a size of 2 kilograms, adults can actually reach almost 37 or 40 kilograms in size or even more. And the size of species of individuals in a population will also determine its resilience to various shocks, recovery potential from fishing exploitation, its role in the ecosystem, species interactions, and also value to humans. So size, for example, determines whether the fish will get eaten or whether it actually gets to eat others. Because if a fish is small, it has very high probability of being eaten. If it's big, it actually has a relatively low predation mortality from other species. And even small differences in size can make actually quite big differences in predation mortality. And new research also shows that size can actually have a really big impact on the reproductive potential. Until recently, we thought that the amount of spawn that a fish produces scales sort of linearly with its body size. So if a fish is 1 kilogram, let's say, it produces 100 grams, 2 kilograms, 200 grams, but it turns out that not to be the case. In many fish stocks, the bigger the mass, the amount of spawn scales even much faster, like, for example, with this cod. And so that means one cod of the size of 30 kilograms can produce the same number of eggs as 37 cod of the size of 2 kilograms on average, with a total weight of 74 kilograms. But they're actually much smaller, so they can produce proportionally much smaller amount of spawn. Same amount of eggs. And it's not only the total amount of eggs. Another thing is that bigger fish often spawn over a longer period of time and rather than the smaller fish, because they don't have quite as much energy to produce eggs over such an extended period of time. And if the larvae hatch, sometimes they hatch at a time when there is not enough food. Good conditions happen only a short, let's say, time periods. And now, let's say, due to environmental stochasticity, climate change, one of these events becomes not good for the larvae. So basically, the population that consists of small individuals that spawn over a short period of time now become a lot more vulnerable to various environmental changes. And of course, fish size also matters to us, to humans. It's an important experience for anglers to catch big fish. For artisanal fishing, for many people, it's a question of survival. For commercial fisheries, it's also a very important factor. And even just for admiration of beautiful animals that they are, big fish, they're actually really amazing. But fish sizes are changing, and they're changing really quite fast. For us humans, maybe it doesn't seem to be so fast, so we don't actually notice it. But on a historical scale, it's happening really quickly. And it is interesting to see how our perception about what actually is a big fish changes through time. There is an interesting study from trophy fish photographs at Florida Keys that shows how in 1958 a winner had caught the fish that actually were bigger than people, bigger than adult humans. By 1980, we still have some big fish, but these giant ones have disappeared. And by 2007, the fish are actually, well, looks like they are really small. Yet in each of these competitions, the winners were extremely happy and proud and thinking that they really caught a big fish. So we are changing our perception on what actually is a big fish. Yet it would be possible, there is no reason why there can't be that big fish in the ocean, in the lakes. Well, maybe not these specifically ones, but there could be lots of big fish. Fish sizes are also changing due to other factors. So here is an example in the Baltic Sea, how in 1987, there's a catch of cod. Well, you can see the cod is almost as big as a human. And in the last few years, the so-called zombie cod, there's several factors. There is a hypothesis why this is happening, but cod is really tiny now, it's growing badly, and clearly it's not the same individual. It's even not the same species. They don't play the same role in the ecosystem. So fishing, as I said, is one of the reasons why fish sizes are changing. We are removing the biggest individuals, and not only we are taking them out, we're also removing them from the reproduction pool. And if the size distribution in an fish population looks like that, as we fish them more and more, they actually become maybe smaller and smaller. We're actually removing all the biggest individuals. Another reason is climate change, because temperatures also have a huge effect on fish body sizes. It's not always clear how that is happening and how these effects work. But for example, in this recent study that we explored a lot of fish species along Australian coasts, we found that on average a length of a fish species changes by 1% per year in a warming hotspot. That's actually quite a lot. Not all species get smaller. On average, some species actually get bigger, but the fact is that their sizes are changing. So what can anglers and citizen science do about it? So first of all, we need data. We don't want these fish species to be considered data poor for much longer. We want to turn them into data rich. So please share the body sizes of your catch with research. There are various ways to do it. You're already using various angler apps that are useful for research, that are contributing data for research. So keep doing that. If not, join one that would actually give you this possibility to do it. And why would we do it? Because even a small amount of fish size data can actually tell us something about size distribution in a population. Because for some research, like catch per fishing trip, if we want to estimate how that changes through time, we need quite a lot of data. But with fish size distributions, even one individual, if we catch one big fish in a certain lake, that already tells us something. It tells us that these big fish actually exist. So, but if we have 5 or 10 or 20, 100 individuals, then we can actually start telling something about the size distribution. So let's say even if we have that many, 10 observations here, we can with a certain probability say that this is a most likely size distribution in this population. And once we know the size distribution in a population, we also have theoretical knowledge and other historical knowledge of how the size distribution should look like for this species. We can then estimate the size deficit, how much of this size we are missing, and that tells us something about the population status, how it changes. Maybe the situation is improving through time, maybe it's getting worse, but even with 1 year, we can actually say that, okay, this population is actually not doing very well compared to how they should be. So if you are not yet using any apps, we are about to release one, and please join the Fish Size project, whether you're an angler or an app developer or a researcher who has access to fish size data. We would love if you became our collaborator. Please contact me about it. The project, fishsizeproject.org, it aims to collect as much information about body sizes of fish as possible, not only from anglers, but also from fish markets and divers and other sources. So this app is currently launching in Lithuania, but it's going global, we hope, if everything goes well. And you can log your observation, join with Facebook or Google, or just contact us if you would like to become, to help us test this app in another country. So with these data, we want to answer a few questions. Basically, how much has the fish size changed across the globe and across all species? We want to go big. And what does it mean for fish, for ecosystems? What does it mean for humans? And of course, what can we do about it? Because actually something can be done. And unlike many other things, populations of fish can actually recover relatively fast. So if we allow them to recover in 10, maybe years, we can actually 10, 20 years, depending on the longevity of the species, we can see really healthy populations. So with this, I would like to thank our funding from the European Union funds. And if you are interested, check out our website on sustainable inland fisheries. And also check out 3 other related talks by our research team, all related to recreational fishing research about how to count anglers using drone footage and fish finder data, an assessment of how recreational fishing can change a reservoir ecosystem, and also a study on how angling effort has changed through the COVID pandemic. Thank you very much, and I hope to be in contact with you in one way or another.